Welcome to the Divine Mess, a sanctuary where the dance of the empowered masculine and the divine feminine unfolds in all its glory. Join us as we delve into the heart of these cosmic energies, exploring their attributes and the profound impact they have on our lives. From the raw power of the masculine to the nurturing embrace of the feminine, we uncover the balance that leads to a life of abundance and joy. Our hosts, Curti Deva Perriman and Tina Ryan, are your guides on this spiritual journey who blend science with soul to offer practical wisdom for harnessing your divine energy. We celebrate the beauty and imperfection, embracing the chaos of life's journey as a catalyst for growth. The Divine Mess isn't just a podcast, it's a movement towards wholeness and self-expression. So come laugh with us, cry with us, and grow with us. Every episode is an invitation to explore the depths of your being and to live out loud, authentically and unapologetically. Subscribe and join our community of seekers as we support each other in this extraordinary, messy adventure we call life. Good afternoon and good evening and welcome to the Divine Mess. As you can tell, we're divinely messy this morning. This morning is a reflection episode of our gorgeous friend Dave, who is a very amazing Tai Chi master and has been a mentor to my dear friend for a wee while now. And it was such a pleasure having him on the podcast, even though we did have a few technical difficulties along the way. We managed to get it right. He even thought it was in person, so he turned up in person because he lives around the corner from my dear friend's house. So there were a few missed messages in translation from French to English to Kiwi, which can all be very different all at the same time. So we were so super excited. I was so super excited to meet Dave because I was expecting Mr. Miyagi, and it's not what I got. Dave is this larger than life, grey-haired, if we're doing audio, big, solid Kiwi fellow who just had the most amazing, blissful, calm, easygoing energy. And it was fun to watch his and David's interaction because I'd heard so much about him. And so I was very keen to see who he was and what he was about and what his story was all about. And it did have reminiscence of the Karate Kid, the story, really, didn't it? Like in terms of, well, it did. It really, really did. In terms of him kind of turning up like this little drowned rat and having found his mentor. And then, you know, the next thing you know, he's this most amazing human who understands the flow of the universe. And I don't think anything would bother Dave. Nothing puts him off center. He is so uniquely tuned into himself and the goings on around him that nothing disturbs his flow. He will not allow anything to disturb his flow. So it was a very important lesson, I feel, last week to take that on board and, you know, apply it to parenthood and apply it to working relationships and driving in traffic and all of the things that come from living this divinely messy life, that if we allow other people to put us off our center, then we haven't done enough work. It's plain and simple, right? It's just really plain and simple that we need to look a little bit further as to why we allow these things to press our buttons. And that was one of my big takeaways from my conversation, or our conversation with Dave, was who do you let press your buttons, and why do you allow those buttons to be pressed in the first place? You know, and what is it showing you about yourself and the level of further work we need to do in order to remain calm and centered, even in the crappiest moments of life. It's just, it all happens for a reason. That's as simple as it is.
A beautiful introduction. I love it. That's a new way. It's the divine mess way. And if people are listening for the first time, welcome to the divine mess. And this is
Yeah.
yet another reflective episode. And if you're wondering about whom we are talking, well, you will have to go back to the last episode and listen to this wonderful gentleman, I will call him, Dave Thew. He's a celebrated like martial arts and holistic health practitioner with over 40 years of experience in Tai Chi, Qigong, and Bagua Zhang. I never asked him what's that about. I never know what's that about. I'm not so sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but Dave is known for his dynamic teaching method, and he has led like countless workshops, seminars, and classes, helping students of all ages, including me, achieve their wellness and martial arts goal. He's also a decorated competitor. He holds like 24 gold and 7 silver medals from national and international events. And most recently, I was part of that journey as well when he got inducted in the New Zealand fame, Australasian Martial Arts Hall of Fame. And he was so humble about it. He would he would just like casually say, "Oh yeah, I'm just getting, like in the process of getting inducted in the Hall of Fame." And I was like looking at him, did you like just hear
You
what
what?
you just said? Like literally, like, did you just hear what you just said? And I was having that
Mm,
look and even telling him that, and he was like,
mm.
"Well, yeah, it's just a process. It will happen if it's meant to happen." And
It's as it's meant to be, right?
that's how he speaks. So if you're wondering how he's like Tina was describing, like that Tai Chi master, he really embodies Tai Chi in his life. Like it's not just like
Yeah.
a 1 hour practice, it's like a 24/7. And whenever we had a chat, he was like all the time teaching me like throughout the day because I got the opportunity to spend the day, most of the day with him. And throughout the day, it become like a spiritual practice. So it's like you don't need to go to a monastery. You just spend 1 day with him. It's like, yeah, you're there. You're already there. He just had this vibe of that mostly like Buddhism, I feel energy, but
Yeah.
he talk about hermetics because that's one of his where he's learning more about. So he's exploring that field because he has this goal of like playing with energy, like he call it. So he loved to play with energy.
I use that now all the time, especially
Mm.
when I'm trying to run up hills. I pretend I've got ski poles to try and get up the hills faster. It makes a difference.
Yeah, and just by like imagining that energy is pulling you instead of being pushed, there's a difference that happened. And when we had that practice first time, I remember like it was not a steep uphill like we practiced, and I was like, oh, what he's doing. Okay, that's going to be like, okay, it's going to be okay. And then he taught me like how to visualize with all your senses. And that's what I learned. One of the thing I learned with him is like how to visualize using all your senses. And that make the difference in terms of playing with energy. And for him, he was telling me like, for example, in the air, there's water as well. So he used that all the time, playing with water. And I'm someone that connects well with water. So for me, it was like everything that he was telling me, I was going to practice on the day. And I kept practicing that. So when you were saying like about the uphill, so for me now, even when I'm running, it's like so easy. It becomes like easy, like just doing that. Because you use that energy. And even like he was, when we were having like those fun breaks, how it's called, and he would practice because I do martial art as well, and he would like do his Tai Chi. and he will tell me like, yeah, try to attack him or something. Like not really, like not to beat him, but like just try to attack. And it's like, oh my God, it feels so useless, like it's like he's like using your power against you and he does it like so casually. It feels like in the movie, like in the Matrix when you're slowing down time, how the Matrix was filmed. That's how it feels. That's how it felt rather with when I was working with him. And he taught me about that, like how to play with that energy and how to use energy um, for your benefit, I would say, and how you can use it. Like if you're having, for example, in martial art, you have an opponent, you can use their energy without you getting tired and play that against them. And he just like transmute that energy. And it's just amazing when you watch him doing that. Like even when I'm talking about that, I can visualize it because I've seen it, I experience it. But if you try to visualize, like you were saying, like in Karate Kid, those masters doing that so casually, that's how they will do it. It will appear so casually, and I will be like how? And that's always my question, like how do you do that? And he will just have that smirk and laugh, and it's like a typical master, when they are like, huh, okay. It's like this smirk, you know.
But I think he was very much like that through the whole episode, in that just his ease and grace about everything, all the work that he does with young men, and teaching them about the aspects of Tai Chi and energy and how to harness their own power. It's like a Marvel movie, essentially, isn't it? Like, harness your power for good kind of situation. That to me is like being a mother of boys, like relating things to Marvel or DC or any of those sorts of things. Like, I know DC is not your favorite, and I understand that completely, but hey, I've got two boys and sometimes they sit on polar opposites of the fence. So you've got to tread very carefully as a parent as to who loves which one, which of them better or both. And so I think it's critically important. We're, currently kind of moving through that stage with two younger children in trying to find mentors or giving them reasons to be better, to understand how critically powerful they are. And when they quit on things, they're quitting on themselves, and to be able to find, I should really ring Dave, to be able to find a Dave here for our two younger boys, so that they begin to understand how they can be better, how their human experience can be so much better when they understand the power of remembrance. And I think that's one of the things that Dave was talking about, was it's not so much learning and discovery, it's about creating remembrance within your soul. Because I'm 1,000% certain somewhere along the line, he was a Japanese samurai. You can kind of see all of that. For I'm an extremely visual person. If you have never listened to an episode, for me, it's all about the pictures that pop up in my head. And I can see Dave with all his hair all tied up in a big ninja bun on the top of his head. But for me, it's endeavoring to find people like Dave for our teenage boys, because let's be honest, when you're a teenager, you do not give an absolute crap about what your parents have to say. Don't care, don't want to listen, don't have no interest in what you're saying. You might as well be going blah, 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 blah down the end of the phone. No one wants to hear what you've got to say. But I think if, as a parent, if we can endeavour to find people like Dave and at least put our children in their pathway so that, you know, and they might, you know, you as a parent may connect with someone like Dave, but your children may not, you know, and then it's that constant seeking. But at the same time, the kids have to be seeking as well. They have to understand that process, that at that age, you've got to go out and look for your own mentors, whether they be footy coaches or soccer coaches or, you know, anything that you want to take up. But you have to find that person. And I think that also, you know, for what Dave does, must come as such a relief for those parents whose children are part of his world, that they would see such a dramatic change in personality, in behavior, in the way they carry themselves. And I think a level of pride as to who you are and how you show up in the world. All of that, I feel, would be embodied in Dave's teachings. So yes, it may for me prompt a wee message to, excuse me, Mr. Dave, seeing as you've travelled the world and you know all these great humans, can you pass on some help and some details, please? But yeah, I loved his energy, and we could have sat and talked to him for hours and hours and hours. I was waiting for all the juicy gossip about, you know, what it's like to hang out with my best mate, because I haven't had an opportunity to do that yet.
Yeah, we are not talking about that on the podcast, of course. Let's delete that thought. No, I'm just kidding. But it was like you said, you know, when you were talking about working with teen, and I know like in Dave's work, because he shared a bit about his work with the youth as well, and his challenges with the youth at the start, and then you see the change, and I'm like, I'm not surprised because with his energy, I don't know, like you must have like an extreme ego to like to not change, you know, like not to go to that heart center and just be, you know, like just surrender to the universe like we talk about all the time, but you feel that energy with him all the time, like you can just surrender and just be. And about the samurai, I already told him about that. I told him about the Buddhism as well. No surprise about all of that because he just embraced that energy within him, and he's like very, you know, like I feel very blessed to have met with him because he has been like a really big catalyst in my journey in the spiritual ascension, I would say. Because when I met with him, we started discussing about spirituality. Like out of the blue, he went like, "Oh," and in Dave's fashion, you know, like, "Oh, okay. So tell me a bit more about it." And it's like, and then we went on for hours. It felt like hours, and it felt like you knew that person for a lifetime. You've been reminded, even the way he works, you know, like in nature, the way he speak about the trees, the way he speak to trees, it's just amazing. Like to watch that, to witness that, just being in that presence, and you see that person like just putting his hand on a tree, and it's like he's like literally having a conversation with a tree. Like you can see, even if he's not speaking out loud, that's when you understand like how much energy speak out, you know, like how people, when we say like how energy, your energy matter, because we all give that example. When someone is walking in a room, you just know, no matter if you understand energy or not, you just know like if they are having a great day or not. You just get that feeling, and with him you can feel that. And but there's a lot of inner work, and when he told me, he shared his you know, his journey of awakening, and you see that happening a lot. Unfortunately, when people don't have the guidance, they don't know where they're going, so they don't know whom to ask. And that's why we are having this podcast, like for you to understand that this journey, this spiritual journey, can be fun, can be messy at times, mainly messy from the human perspective, but it can be like when you meet the right people, that's when you see your ascension, you see yourself growing. And with Dave, it's like constantly there's a new thing. With his practices, for example, and him talking about his Kundalini awakening, that's a major one. When he was talking about it, when I remember that conversation, and it was like during a break, and we were talking about spirituality in general. And then he said, "Oh, I had this experience when I was 18," and I told him, "You do realize that's called Kundalini awakening, like, yeah, you do know that you had one. It's called Kundalini awakening." And he was like, "Oh, I heard about it." And I was like, "Do you realize you got it at 18? Like, people can work on themselves for a lifetime just to reach that point." And but the more that's what I was sharing with him at that point in time, was like, when you don't have the guidance and you don't have the knowledge, you don't know what to go, you don't know what to do, because then his life changes. He stopped doing his practices and his life went the other way. And uh, and then he, obviously spirituality brought him back, but Tai Chi has been a major part of his life. If you're practicing Tai Chi for over 40 years, that's telling you something about your discipline and your love for it, for that art. And it's truly, when you watch him, even he holds like a Guinness Book world record of doing consecutive hours of Tai Chi, even if it was unofficial, unfortunately. But when you see him doing that, you can feel the love and passion for it. You can just feel it. That's when you understand, when Steve Jobs was saying, like, when you love something, there's no like hours, like, you don't see the hours, you just embrace it, you just enjoy it, just like we did on our journey, I feel, on the podcast as well. like like you said, we did mention that, like, it's one of the best decisions we ever made, like, to start, because you meet those amazing people now, and we are like, okay, who's next? It's like, where do we go from there? Like, what's next?
It has, it has been really such a fun experience, even though, we lead divinely messy lives, both of us, through our own situations and circumstances. But I'm reading Conversations with God. And so for me, it was, I'm finished. I'm seeking for the second book. So I'm finished. It's shown that the limited, our need for how is truly, truly limiting us in being the magnificent human experience that we can be. Our souls are desperate for our remembrance of the amount of lifetimes that we have led and all the learning that comes with that. And interestingly, spoke about karmic debt not being a thing. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting, because we have spoken about those sorts of things before. But just the minute amount of life that we are choosing to live. And I think being on the hamster wheel for most people is living a very minute portion of your life. And when you meet somebody like Dave, who lives this expansive, free-flowing, surrender to all that is and all that can be, you can kind of sort of like let your shoulders relax and go, oh, you know, or someone else had once said to me, when something pops up and you're not quite sure about the feeling, oh, that's an interesting feeling. Or, oh, that's an interesting thought. In the space of being an observer rather than necessarily plonking yourself in it and sitting in it for a very long time and finding it very difficult to dig your way out of it. When you're with someone like Dave, it's that I can just be who I am. And there's just such a delightful acceptance of the being who he is, and then also of the people that are around him. It doesn't mean that by being around him that your energetic signature won't change, because damn sure it will. And, you know, he's one of those people that are very inspiring to be around, to go, oh, how can I go out and touch a tree every day? And how can I breathe with a tree for a couple of minutes every day? You know, take my shoes off, put my feet on the earth, do all the things that connects me back to who I truly am. And for me, he seems to just have that way of knowing who he truly is and what his purpose is this time around. You know, and for so many of us, we struggle with the, God, what's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I meant to be doing? You know, I don't even really know. And that's because you're trying to figure out the how all the time. That you just need to maybe sit back and hug a tree and ask a tree, what's my purpose? You might get a more sensible answer rather than your human brain trying to work that out for you.
I was watching like a reel, and there was this young guy, like he was talking like he got he was motivated by a concept that he learned when he was in his 18. A guardian angel just came in, and he was saying like um, he learned that concept of be, do, have. But in our life, we have been talking of how, have, do, and be. But he was saying like it's always the reverse. It's be, do, have. Because we always say like, when I have this car, for example, you know, I will be happy, or I will do more, let's say shopping, or I will go around more. But whereas he's saying like, when once you learn to reverse that concept, like be, do, have. So when you're be, like when you're happy, you're just being happy, you will do whatever inspired you. It will come from that inspired action, and automatically the have will. And that's what I think, like in conversation with God as well, he reminds you of that, or just be,
Yes.
and how easy. And it's like God is having a laugh at us, having all
Oh
those
God, yeah.
tantrum of just, um, like of just focusing on the have, need to, should, and we know should is a shame language as well. And
Correct.
just,
But there's also a missing part on the end of that. And the
mm,
last part is give.
yep, yeah,
You know, like if you're being joyful or you're being ecstatic, then you do that like you say, you do that inspired action. And then you get to have the things that are outside of your sphere of influence. Like, you know, your circle just gets bigger. But then by being that person, you're then giving that energy to others. You're then sharing that enthusiasm with others, you know, or you're in the mind to be generous with others.
I feel like once you're in the being state, you're already giving to others because they're already,
Yeah.
because when you're just being you, and I was telling that in one of the coaching connect that I'm having, like with a group of coaches, and we were talking about like how to turn challenges into opportunities, and we were each sharing different stories, how we did that, or what happened, or if we are still going through that. And I was telling them like, if you're not the light, the world is not going to light up. Like your world is not going to light up. But when you are focusing on your light and you're just being the light, the world will light up because of you. And imagine like if we all do that, and always with group of coaches, what I do is like, even group of people now is like, at the end, that was it. The end is like just like being ourselves, but always connecting that light to their country or their location, wherever they are, or their family is going to benefit, or their friends is going to benefit, so that the whole world can connect and just be. Because imagine like if you duplicate, like you were asking, if you have another Dave, like for example in Perth, right? And just imagine like if you have one in Australia, one in New Zealand, and you have way, way, way more across the world, like how many light will light up? Like just focusing on the light and just be. And by being around those people, you learn how to be with you, like how to appreciate yourself, your journey as well. Because when you hear him telling his story as well, he's very grateful and gracious in the way he described his life story. No matter what, whenever he's telling any experience, he will always tell you the part he's grateful about and what he has learned. And that's a way of story that I learned from him. So no matter what you are going through your life, if that was the end, you just finish like with what you have learned and what are you grateful for, it changes the energy around that story. Even if it was a negative or a challenge or whatever it is. But just by being grateful, it like cancel out.
The gratitude part's really important, right? Irrespective of, use my story as an example. You're married young, you are not really fully aware of who you are, what your power is. You're not really good with boundaries. You struggle to have children. You start a business, you do lots of things, but in between time, the relationship is not treated like something that's truly precious. You just assume that your husband's always going to be there and he'll do what he's meant to do. And oh my God, I'm going to work on him and I'm going to change him because he needs, he's a fixer-upper. It's my partner. But then and so many women I've met come out the other side of truly crappy relationships, and there's so much bitterness and anger and a good portion of the time, a lot of that is rightfully so. But if we refer back to the book, we've created every single situation in our lives. And it's not if something awful has happened, you have said, oh, I don't have a car accident today. It's not what you've said. You could say things like, I want the world to stop for a minute, or I'm really tired of driving to work, or, you say things like that. The universe conspires to give you what you're asking for. So we need to be really cautious about first the thoughts that we have and then the words that we utilize, because it becomes action. So, we do need to be extremely careful, but at the same time, when we come out of these situations, like Dave was saying, I have found personally to have gratitude for the lessons that I took away about myself, how the type of relationship I really truly wanted versus the one that I had, the type of relationship I wanted with my children as they became older and as they became adults, the type of life that I wanted to lead, where, you know, I was respectful of other people and their own journeys, and I wasn't in that egotistical comparison mode. I didn't want that for my life, nor did I want that for my children. So I had to express gratitude towards my ex-husband because he taught me so many things about myself and about the things that the learning that I went through over those 20 something plus years of how I could have been a better partner and a better mother, and, you know, but you don't know what you don't know, right? And it's not until someone puts a potential learning opportunity in front of your lap and you decide to grip it with both hands that you go, oh, okay, maybe I can do it better. So when we have people like Dave come across our path, or any one of the guests that we've had, it's a learning opportunity for us to go, oh, what can we have a look at in our own lives? And it's much the same for any of you when you flick up on the screen and go, what episode am I going to listen to? Do the random scroll and just shut your eyes and press a button, because you'll get what you need from it. And you'll be so much better off if you show a level of appreciation and gratitude for the slap you'll get up the backside of the head that says hello and good morning.
Funny
And
you
the
mentioned that.
learning.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go on.
No, go. No. Done.
It's funny you mentioned about like scrolling through the episode, because I'm working on the YouTube channel. So there is the whole playlist. And randomly, out of the blue, like one episode stopped playing. Like I didn't do anything. I don't know what I pressed. And it just happened to play. And I think it was like one episode with Jacob that we recorded earlier. And we were talking about energy or the cosmos. And there was like those trusting the process, like trusting that. And I was like, uh-huh, okay, thank you. Great. And I closed it. No, I'm kidding. I'll just because these are like so much good reminders, like when you receive. And even like when you're working on the podcast, I find it interesting that even the universe like conspire to find a way to share that message, like just to remind you what you're going through is okay. It's going to be all right,
Yeah.
like you're being taken care. And I feel like there's a point that you raised really important, and I really honor you for that, because you said like what I learned about myself, you know, that's a really important point, I feel, for people to understand that when we are reflecting on lesson, it's not reflecting on lesson about the other person. It's like, what are we learning about ourselves? And I love how you put that about I learned this. This is what I understood, how I can become, like I can become. Because so often, if you listen to people's conversation, and often when we are working with client, and if you are working with couple, you hear that a lot. He or she did that. He or she made me feel like that, or they made feel like that. So we are giving power to others. But by
Yeah.
you saying like you're already claiming this is
Mm.
what I learned. I'm owning it.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
owning my part. And the moment you do that, you're healing the part within yourself. And without realizing, the part in the relationship in the past is already getting healed. Like I believe in karma. So it's like that concept, like even like your past life, it's getting resolved in that moment when you're claiming that power.
But also too, if we understand our own buttons, nobody else can press them. Or if they do press them, the resulting reaction is not anything like it would have been in the past. I know now that my ex-husband chooses to try and press a button for me. Normally I would have been like, absolutely going to town. And now it's like, that's interesting. Where's that come from? And it's the same. I have the same conversations with my kids about owning their part. You know, owning your part in the story, because they'll come to me with a story and I'm like, wind that back up a little bit and tell me about the story. What are you leaving out? Because we're really good at leaving out the critical dots that connect the story, that make it all make sense, because nothing comes from nowhere. Anything that occurs to you has occurred because you've created it. So if you've created it, why are you creating it? What is it about you that you need to look at? And if it's a bit scary, ask somebody for help in the looking, right? Or if you can't see it for yourself, someone else will be able to see it very, very clearly. So, you know, even when my beautiful friend was working with Dave and David got schooled on the things that he wasn't seeing clearly about himself and about his practice and about how much more there is to uncover and discover about yourself. But not only that, Dave is helping David create remembrance in himself about the journey he needs to take in order for his soul to remember his godliness, remember that he is part of the all, you know, and that he is not limited to the human construct or the human meat suit that he finds himself in. There is far more to it, but it's until we find those people like Dave or like any of the guests that we've had on, you don't know what you don't know. And we're always so excited to meet people that have amazing skill sets and to understand their story and how they've ended up where they've ended up. That too provides remembrance for us, because they don't come across our paths for no reason. They're there to unlock doors and to open windows and to allow us to see the magnificence of who we are at the same time. So if you can't already guess, I love my job. I love what I do, and it's probably not the thing I ever thought that I would ever do, ever. But meeting David provided remembrance. And then we went, finally you showed up. It's great. So happy you're here. Let's do this all again. So it's just been a magnificent journey. So anytime something happens to you, it's happening for you. So grip it with both hands and uncover the hidden delights and secrets and learnings that are in it. And don't make the other person out to be the bad guy. They may be, but we can all play that part of the dastardly villain too, you know. We're not all as innocent as we make ourselves out to be.
I remember like one friend was saying, like, telling me like, you will be the bad guy in someone's story. Like there will be somewhere, you will be the bad guy. and you have to accept that, and that's how they see that. But you have to work on your forgiveness, on forgiving yourself more importantly than the other person first. Like it's forgiving you first, and then you focus on the other person or the relationship or whatever the situation is, but it starts with you. And you were telling like how you tell your story, and I was remembering like with Dave, whenever he is telling a story, it's always starting with that I, and he rarely, like I never heard him speaking about the other person. When he's talking about these any personal story, it will be always from his perspective and he's learning. And I find that to be an amazing skill to have, to be able to tell a story from your perspective without blaming the other person, or like feeling um the need to blame the other person or to put the weight on the other person. That's an amazing skill to have. And you see that level of inner work. Even he's very gracious about it. And he don't talk about it much because for him it's fun doing that. You can see, for me, whenever I was with him, I sense that playfulness. Like in conversation with God as well, they talk about that, being playful, having fun, because all that the universe is asking you is to have fun and to be playful. Because if you uh recently I was talking to one client. She's planning to go to Italy for a trip, and I tell her like, just tell your kid like you're going to Italy and see their reaction, and tell that to yourself in the mirror. You will see the reaction, how it is, because you will start thinking like, how do I book the ticket? Where do I have to stay? Where's my accommodation? Is it safe? Will I do I need to book an Uber to take me to the airport? Or how are the kids going to manage on a 10-hour or 17-hour flight? But when you tell that to your kid, they're already there. Like for them, it's like they are going through a portal. It's like they're already there. They already zoomed there. And that's what the universe is always asking you. If you read The Secret or The Power Within You, whatever it is, they are telling you to go back to that child mode where you believe in that magic, that anything is possible, and see life that magical. Because even in conversation with God, it's like this. Like it's a different take. The word they use is different, but you can. I was telling that to my client, like, just try it with your kid and you let me know, like, how did that go? How did that conversation go? And you will see the change in energy. Even for you to accomplish that goal, you will be like more in a playful state. And we all know, like, when we go through that rhythm, like some days we are really high and some days it's like, oh, again. But that's when I learned with Dave is like, no matter the rhythm, you keep your practice, because he didn't stop doing Tai Chi whether he felt it or not. Like some days you don't want to practice and you don't want to do it, but those are the days that matter. And if you look at athlete as well, like Michael Phelps was saying that out of 365, 200 days, 100 to 200 days, he didn't want to wake up. And this guy trained for 5 years straight, like no days off, sick, birthdays, weddings, whatever. He missed all of that. And that's what I learned with Dave as well, is like that consistent daily practice, looking forward to that practice. That was more important. I felt like looking forward to it. It's not like, oh, I have to do my affirmation now. Oh, I have to do my mirror work now. It's not like that. It's like I get to do my mirror work. I get to see myself. I get to meet with my angels. I get to meet with my archangel, whatever it is. I get to meet with the divine, whatever resonate with you. And sometimes I feel like it has. We were having another chat with a coach, and she was saying like self-love or self-care has become so trendy now. She was saying like it has become a trend that people really don't care about it anymore. It's like they say, like we had one guest saying, one guest saying like, yeah, going to the spa or, like that's not self-care. And I was like, ah, yeah, that's another take. And it's true on a deeper level because yes, it contributes to your self-care, but on a deeper level, you're not asking yourself like, how am I feeling, or what am I avoiding? Sometimes we go to those places, and we were talking about that. She was saying like shopping was her thing, like going shopping, and she's like, she know when she's shopping, she's avoiding something, and that's incredible. I find that incredible. She found that out, and I feel like you working with women as well. It's not just women, but with men as well. Maybe it's the gym, but shopping as well. It doesn't matter what self-care practice you have.
Sometimes it's going for the run. What the hell are you running from? Right? What are we avoiding by being so dogged in our pursuit of physical excellence? Sometimes I think that is even hiding. If we're not doing the work, right, it's okay. It's more than okay if you are doing the work on the whole wheel. You're doing your physical work, you're doing your mental work, you're doing your work with your family, you're doing your work where your job is, you're doing your work on your relationships, you're doing all of the work. But if you are solely focused in one area, so you don't need to focus on anything else, then that can be problematic. And it may indicate that there are spaces that you don't want to sit and be still and listen and get the guidance. But, sometimes we're all running from something that doesn't feel comfortable and doesn't feel good and doesn't make our heart sing. But it's in that is stuff that does make you happy and does provide you with a deeper understanding of who you are and why you're here. So maybe whilst you're cycling or going for a run or going to the gym, ask yourself those deeper questions. Why am I here? What am I potentially avoiding? Conversation with my partner, spending time with my kids, doing the assignment that I need to do. What is it? Because you'll find the answers if you ask. It's just most of the times we want to jam music in our ears and we don't want to have the conversations with ourselves or the conversations with God or the universe or whoever you would like to put that hat onto. But they're conversations worth having. Same as tuning in and sitting on the couch with us every week. They're conversations worth having, right? Because we love having conversations. So if you, on your journey, know of somebody who has undergone an interesting spiritual journey and who would love to come and sit and hang out, have a cup of tea and share their story with us, please, if you feel called to, share our podcast, share our information with them, because we'd love to share how they are serving the world in, taking good care of themselves and the other people around them. So we are divinely grateful for Dave and his time last week and for all the things that he has brought to us and shown us about the magnificence of harnessing one's own energy and what talking to trees can do for us. I think it can make us feel very calm and very centered and not allow people to tip us off our balance. So thank you, Mr. Dave. We are appreciative of your time. And thank you to my divinely gorgeous co-host. I'm always appreciative of his time and for undergoing this divinely messy journey with me and where it's leading us, who knows? But soon, I'm sure all will be revealed in good time.
I think it's a good time, like, to say goodbye for now. Yeah. No, but
For
it's
now,
a, um, I felt like last week was a beautiful episode. Definitely one of the calmest ever on the divine mess um, couch to have. And it's just, we are inviting more people, like, just like Dave, maybe with that kind of energy. Um, but
yeah,
they are serving the world in different ways. And I feel very honored and blessed to have met him in person and to have him on the Divine Mess couch, like to share him in a way with the world, because I know
mm,
he has not got this many opportunities before. So I'm hoping, like, with this opportunity that this take him to more places, and who knows, like, even to Perth, like, or even across Australia. You never know where it
yeah,
can take him, and that's my hope
absolutely.
and wish for him, because he's one of the people, like everyone, but I know he deserves to be serving more people, like, and I always tell him that. I always tell him, like, you can do more, but he's always like, oh yeah, I can just be. And it's like that Zen master telling you, just be. It
Just
feels
be,
like,
David.
yes, just feel like Bruce Lee speaking to you and saying, yeah, just be like water, like, and you can just literally hear that, and you're like, uh-huh,
Yep.
okay, yeah,
Uh-huh. Thank
shut
you.
down your masculine energy, like, shut it. But on that, on that note, thank you for everyone listening, on whichever platform you're listening now. We are very grateful to have this platform to share this knowledge and wisdom with the world, and also to share people like Dave, to invite people like Dave, and share
Yeah.
their wisdom, their technique, their tips. I would suggest, like, go back and listen. And like Tina always say, like, just put it randomly. If you want to put it on 11:11 or 12:12, like, whatever suits you, whatever minutes or number suits you, just go for it. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone, for listening, and I will leave the last few words for Tina.
We love you, and we are so extremely grateful for you sharing your most precious resource, which is your time. And until next week, take very good care of yourself, and don't forget to go hug a tree. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for
Thank
now.
you. Thank you. We'll see you.